Hello, everyone. Welcome to ZZP Power Hour.
We're here.
Looks like we got too many people in the chat to say hi, thanks to MC there.
Yeah.
Taking up the whole window. But how's it going? Happy Friday?
Happy Friday. A little snow outside.
Yeah. A little snow out of nowhere.
There's a lot of snow coming.
Out of nowhere. I hope everybody's snow tired up in the northern regions.
We are snow tired up here. Maybe be grabbing some e-brakes on the way home today. But
after watching that Hoonigan video, I'm ready to jack some e-brakes on the highway.
Might as well.
Let's get rowdy.
I'm going to flip that on tonight, I think. I've yet to actually catch the whole thing.
Do that full 360 thing and keep going straight.
Yeah, that was interesting. That's pretty cool.
Anyways, today we're talking about transmissions.
Transmissions.
Which I think we all have a mostly hate relationship.
You know,
Yeah.
it's
Nah, I'm doing good.
Whatever.
it's not.
You're good at one thing, transmission.
It's really easy.
Yeah.
It's really easy to be mad at your transmission for one reason or the other, but it's usually very self-inflicted.
Also true.
Like if you reflect on you and your transmission's relationship, then you quickly realize that it's not really.
You can find where the problem started. Oh, hey, Eden. What's up?
Hey, Eden, I need a quote on my Cobalt. Oh, man. Eden used to work here. He was our install bay manager, and then he decided he just wanted to do something else.
Travel the country, I think, isn't
Yeah,
he?
he's
He has
traveling
been
the company
traveling.
and putting all kinds of miles on his vehicles and sightseeing and all that fun stuff. But yeah,
80s.
I can say that I definitely have mostly a hate relationship with transmissions.
I don't know. You've been pretty lucky this year.
I've broken many autos. I've broken many manuals.
So out of all the cars you've ever owned, favorite transmission?
Manual. But I'm not pro manual necessarily. I like them both. You know, they like all three. I like all three. You know, you have your manual transmission with a clutch pedal. You have your auto tranny with a torque converter. And then you have I would say the coolest tranny, like what you have in your little mini Evo is the old whatever, dual
Twin
clutch.
clutch,
Dual clutch DCT.
Yeah, DCT, MCT, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
Never really driven one. I've ridden in both your guys's, but I've never actually driven one to experience that.
They're
It's
fun.
pretty fun.
Imagine that's my favorite tranny, but it has its downfalls. Imagine a manual tranny that can't predict the future like your brain. So it doesn't know that you're going to take off in 1 second. It's just reacting to whatever you do to it right now. So like in a parking lot, you'll hit the gas and it's like, okay, let's go. And then you let off because you only want to cruise through the parking lot like really slow. And then it's like, oh, I'm in neutral now. And then you hit the gas. It's like, oh crap, let's dump the clutch and go again. So it can be a little notchy, a little jumpy. Mm-hmm. But once you're rolling, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. Like I love it.
Yeah, I've ridden in Trevor's car. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It'd be sweet if there was an easier swap one into regular stuff.
Holy crap.
But they kind of like only work with the cars they come in, and
Yeah.
I think
pretty-
that's it.
It's a pretty intricate deal there.
I don't think there's a common swapped twin clutch, is there?
I don't know of any.
Yeah, I don't know of any. Mercedes has their oh man, somebody's gonna have to jump in and probably correct me, but I think they're MCT. Ooh,
What's the difference there?
DCT? No, MCT. I think might be Mercedes, and then BMW's DCT, and then yours is probably DCT, right?
SST technically, but
SST.
it, to my understanding, works pretty similar to DCT. So
Yeah, I think they all function pretty similar.
Yeah.
But then you also have sequentials that are not a DCT. So those are cool.
Yeah.
I was
like
looking at
dog
those.
box, you're saying?
Well, and then you also, I mean, this isn't practical for like the cars that we're dealing with, but you also have the clutchless sequentials, which I got to. I've seen videos and pictures of them, but I got to see them up close at PRI yesterday. Liberty Gears was there and had several of them opened up. So
Is that a full custom tranny that doesn't come in anything from
right?
the
It's a
factory?
pro stock or pro mod
okay.
trans.
Okay.
But it's like a dog box, kind of.
But better?
but better. Without having to start from ground zero. If you already understand how a dog box works, then now imagine that the back side of every tooth is angled. So when you shift those transmissions, you don't go from first to second, you just engage second. And then now that first is overrunning, since the back side of the teeth's angled, it pushes itself out. So there's no ignition cut, there's no torque reduction, no nothing. Like all you hear is the RPM drop.
Is that one of those trannies that to slow down to a stop, you have to like take it apart and put it back together, or can you downshift it?
Anytime you let off the gas, it goes to neutral. So they're great for running world records, not so great for running rounds or no prep or something like that, because you can't pedal the car. As soon as there's any unloading at all, they pop themselves into neutral.
Dang.
But when they hook,
Yeah.
they're fast.
Right.
Yeah, I would imagine.
That's cool. Noah asks, is the F40 worth it?
100%.
It's one of those things that the more I'm around an LSJ or an LNF car, it would almost be like considered a top 5 mod, like
Yeah.
intake downpipe F40.
Yeah,
I agree.
Because
it's not cheap, but man, buy once, cry once.
Yup, you get the extra gear. You're never really gonna break it on any obtainable street build, and it's magical. The 6th gear is worth it alone.
Yep.
Plus the additional power that it can handle over the F35 it just makes it a basically no-brainer, and it's a pretty easy swap to do. If you're familiar with working on your Ecotec car, you could probably do it. Otherwise, we can do it for you.
Yeah, it seems like you buy your Ecotec car
Shut up, Shane.
and you start saving money for the transmission and just wait for it to break. And
Basically,
Pretty much.
every time you floor it, you're crossing your fingers. You're not going to explode your F-35. Yeah, that is true. The F-40, I mean, you almost have to make mistakes to break that. I mean, we have had them fail under power, but it's so rare compared to
I
F-35.
personally have never seen one fail purely from power.
Yeah, they don't fail. Normally, they just get all grind or crunchy because all the synchros
Yeah,
are
the
gone out of it.
synchros could be better, but I think that just kind of goes with
Yeah.
almost any trans.
Yeah.
If you don't shift well, the synchros
Yeah.
are not gonna like it.
After a few dummy shifts for thousands of miles, it's like, this one's getting a little, it could be better. So like we've replaced it in some of our shop cars, but I've never seen one break.
I think Snowball has original F40, right? Isn't that something Ryan always brags about?
I think he does actually brag about that a lot. That is the
Yeah,
original
he does.
F40 that he had installed in the car before he worked here.
Which I think was like one of the first few kits we ever did at
Yeah.
ZZP.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It does say something about the F40.
Yeah.
it's
I mean, that car's had like 8 engines since then in the same F40.
yeah. I guess my gripe with manual trannies is just finding that magical clutch that works.
Yeah.
Like, it's so hard to find the clutch that disengages at the right point in the pedal that you like. It disengages fully so you can you can shift it properly. Like, that is so freaking hard to accomplish.
Well, and then the clutch depends on the engine setup you have and the tire setup you have and the wheels and like...
Yep, because there's another thing, Al was talking to somebody at PRI about some clutch tricks, and like one of them, I kind of, before I used to like lighter pressure plates and stickier discs. That was kind of my preference before. So you have like a softer pedal, but you get a lot of your grip out of the disc. Well, I'm actually starting to go the other route.
No.
And I'd rather have the pedal be a little firmer, but then have a slipperier disc because it seems to me like you can shift faster.
Yeah.
You don't get that like semi-stutter on a fast shift because the clutch like slips just a little bit. Because like Ashley's Sonic and versus my Sonic, we have like the opposite basically clutch. She's got like the GMPP, like organic disc.
Right.
And then I have the Clutch Masters pressure plate with like the sticky disc, and I can shift her car a lot faster than mine.
Yeah.
When we first put them in, she liked mine more, and I kind of liked mine more. And then as they both broke in, I was like, oh crap, like I kind of like Ashley's a little more now. So I mean, it's all preference. Obviously, everybody has their thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. They all work.
I mean, the one we run in the drag car, it is pretty I wouldn't quite call it light switchy, but it grabs pretty quick. But we also went down to a 4-puck in that one.
Yeah.
Which,
Less puck, more grip.
But it shifts fast. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the fastest shifting clutch we've had in it. But I don't expect it to last forever. So like that's why it's not something that we push for street use.
The 4-puck ones look so weird.
They do.
When you hold on to them, you're like, this isn't
like,
right.
this is really gonna hold this?
Yeah. It is crazy because you see less friction material there and you're like, how is this grip more? But you have all that same pressure, but like on less friction. So more
Yeah.
grip.
Brad Keys with a great question. How much will the GMPP clutch hold? Typically, we see about 350 on that.
That is a good question. One of the downfalls of the GMPP is that somehow they made the friction material stronger than the center hub. So you can make a lot of power through that clutch and it won't slip, but eventually it will explode.
Yeah,
Usually
That's
what
fair.
happens first.
that's fair. You've had a lot of them hold high horsepower numbers, but we normally try and recommend like that 350 wheel mark.
Yeah, you can do it, but it is not going to be happy for a long time.
Yeah. The biggest thing with those is breaking them in.
Yeah.
I see Ethan Vink brought up the 4T80 and a 3800.
Yeah.
And I mean, I
Not
guess
super into it. Most of the
not
guys
either.
who are really jumping on the 4T80 bandwagon don't even need one. So, I mean,
That's kind of how it goes usually.
yeah, it's a lot of work when you could just put a few $100 into a 65E and just have somebody go through it properly, and it's going to do the same trick. It's going to be lighter. It's much less rotating mass. It's obviously a direct bolt-in than the car came with it. The aftermarket's much larger. There's no aftermarket for the 4T80, so overall in stock form it's better, but you can't do anything after that.
I mean, well, I guess I'll probably shut it down with this. Matt's car runs mid-8s on the 4T65.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's the point of the 4T80? A heavier tranny, more rotating weight, more weight overall? Like,
you better be making a lot more power if you're
Yeah.
going to take that.
Yep. But I mean, on the topic of 4T65Es, I always gripe to Tim. I think the biggest thing that guys overlook is they don't maintain it. So they go out and they buy a really nice transmission from Triple Edge or one of the known vendors out there, and they put all the right parts in it, and then they run it for 20,000 miles, and however long, and expect to never even have to give that transmission any attention because they spent good money on it and they went to the right place, when in all reality I think if you're making over 450 wheel horsepower, you need to be servicing your 65E every 5 to 10,000 miles, and that's going to be the key to making it work efficiently. And that's probably what Matt was doing back in the day as well, is he wasn't just, well, I have a good 65E, let's just go to the track and run this and run this and run this. It's worth taking it out every other season if you're actually driving your car a lot and running through it. Even if you don't really find anything in there, just checking the chain tension, making sure the clutches and the frictions are in good shape. That preventative maintenance goes a very, very long way with the 65E, as well as just keeping it cool.
Well, you have
Yeah.
a lot better chance of catching something while it's still repairable
yeah.
or
Keep
replaceable.
keep an eye on your tranny temps.
The temps is huge too.
Yeah.
If your tranny temps are breaking 200 degrees, I mean, get a cooler on it, or make sure that your converter's locking up fully. I mean, just making sure your torque converter is locking properly is worth gas mileage and temperature.
Yeah.
If your converter's always slipping a little bit, I mean, slipping is heat. You're putting that heat into I've seen customers driving around with tranny temps like 230s, 240s. It's like, what are you doing? Like, it's broken. Fix it.
Yeah. I'm really not afraid to take my transmission out, as everybody here knows. And whether it's broken or not, but like I'm this winter I'm doing a cam install on the Regal, and the engine will be out, and there's a good chance I'll probably just yank the transmission too and just go through it. It probably has 1,200 miles on it, 1,400 miles on it. But when I put it together next year, I want to know that my ducks are in a row so that there's not going to be any issues the first time at the track. And I'm like, man, I was just right there. Like, why would you do that to yourself? You're setting yourself up for failure. If you're putting a car together that's going to be pushing the limit of the 65E, treat it as such, and you won't have a problem.
That is two solid points to the traditional manual transmissions is maintenance cycles and temps. You just kind of You put a clutch and fluid in it, and you're good for what, 100K in a lot of them. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, unless
clutch.
it's in the drag sonic, and then you take it
Yeah.
out every 2 miles.
Well, that's a great comparable to the 65E. You know, you put it together right, and you hope it lasts as long as you need it to. But the next time the car's apart, you take a look at it.
Yeah.
But yeah, clutch maintenance is, it's in the same realm as service for me.
I've never owned a car long enough to do 2 clutches, so I guess I don't know.
Oh, I've had quite a few clutches in my car.
My Eclipse back in the day ran like, I don't know, low 12s, mid 12s on the street. And I would do a clutch a year.
Really?
Every year, yeah. Yeah, $6,000 whole shots will
They'll do that. When you're using your clutch like a torque converter, they don't last a long time.
Speaking of that, like one point for manual tranny is, let's say you have a Kia Sophia, and that thing is 130 horsepower from the factory. I'm just making up numbers, but it's probably close. I would rather shoot myself in the face than have an auto one. But a manual one probably would be kind of fun.
Yeah, there is a ton of fun factor. I think if a car is slow and it has a manual transmission, it makes all the difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can totally tolerate it. Like it's not even a problem. Whether if it's a little Ford Ranger or like what you're talking about, if that thing has a handshaker in it, it's going to be a good daily.
Yeah. My SC2 had a pretty much straight piped exhaust and was a manual trans. And it was a lot of fun to drive because you could just go out and pretend you're a race car driver and beat the snot out of it and barely break the speed limit.
Well, I'm the type of guy who leaves a stoplight and I'll rev every gear to like 6,000 RPM at 20% throttle because I just
Just no reason other than you can.
I just like I don't know.
I get it. I remember we got in Ryan Derrick's ATS and we're driving down the road and Bo looks at me. He's like, "What are you doing?" Because I was shifting at like $2,000, 2,500. He just looked at me in disgust.
I was like, you are in control of these gears and you're going to shift it like that.
You should have grabbed his hand and held it and kept it in gear longer. That would have worked.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fun because manual tranny, you're always in power band, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, and you can predict what you know what you're going to do in a couple seconds, so you can kind of like hold the gears to achieve whatever you want to achieve, which you can with an auto if you're somebody that's always putting it in manual mode and always driving it in manual mode. Suppose.
Tyler does that a lot in his Camaro.
But like I don't. I just generally throw it and drive and just go.
I just don't like feeling an engine loaded up. Like if you're short shifting a lot and it's bogging, I don't like that feeling. So that's what causes me to just over rev them for no reason. Keeps them light on their feet. I don't know.
I agree.
Sure.
Light on their feet.
I would say
If that makes you happy, then yeah, run with it.
I would say, that's probably one of the biggest things I do with my tuning is I just take the factory shift points and just bump them up. Because GM, like, I'm assuming it's emissions and gas mileage stuff. They just short shift the heck out of them.
Yeah, and then
I
there's
hate
your
it.
overdrive.
Yeah.
There's your overdrive right there at 32 miles an hour, and the converter's locked. And it's,
Yep. Everything A8. So every 8-speed auto GM vehicle, if it can cruise around at 1,000 RPM, it will.
Yeah.
So, like, my number one thing is get it above 1,300. And depending on the engine, maybe higher. Like, if it's a V6 car, 1,300. If it's a 4-cylinder car, 1,500. Just don't ever let it below that. And the car feels so much peppier.
Yeah.
So much better.
It is very interesting when you have an automatic transmission and you kind of learn to drive around it.
Yep.
And like if you get into a different car and it requires different throttle input to achieve the same, acceleration, it's very different. But after like being in a tuned Sonic, that you're used to all the shift points, it's very interesting how you can actually work with the car almost as if it was like a manual, but just by like the throttle input you put
Yeah,
to get
I know
the
what
right
you're talking about.
to get the right gear for the situation.
Yeah, because I drive the blue car most of the time, and then driving the Gen 2 Cruise this weekend. It was like my foot didn't
Perfect
know what
example.
to do.
Perfect example. Yeah.
It was very annoying because like I would go to pass someone and I'd give it a little pedal and nothing would happen. I'm like,
Yep.
do something.
Where in the Blue Sonic, that's your gear drop right there.
Right. Yeah. Downshift now.
Don't you like that nitrous button that thing has? Like when you push the gas pedal down, and then there's like one last quarter inch where it goes click.
Yep.
Isn't that weird?
And then
I
it drops.
I need to look into that. But
It drops 2 gears.
I haven't.
There's still one spot that I've tried to catch it when I'm logging and I can never find it again. But there's a very specific spot where if you're cruising at I don't know what speed it is because it happens out of nowhere, and you'll give it a little and nothing happens, and you give it too much and then it drops 2 gears and you're like, "Wah!" I was just trying to pass someone.
yeah, yeah. All I need is a scan so I can see that, and I can. I'll make it better for sure.
I just need to scan it everywhere and I'll catch it eventually.
The Gen 2 Cruise actually has like a mild TCM tune. Like
Yeah.
I did like a very mild TCM to it, but the ECM is all stock right
Once
now.
I got used to it, that car drove very nice. It was just exactly what Bo was talking about. I've just gotten so used to driving through the gears with the foot position that all of a sudden it changed.
One gripe I've always had about the autos is, like, let's say you're making a turn into traffic and you like go to accelerate, but it like shifts to second gear, and then you're like, oh crap, I don't have any power, so you're like kind of stuck in traffic a little bit. That's one gripe I have about autos. Is like that, just that, like I was saying before about that predictive shifting. It doesn't know that you're going to pedal into it in 1 second, so it shifts to second, and now you're bogged.
Yeah, pulling out of our parking lot, slight uphill on 28th Street, and then it's second gear, and you look, and you're like, oh, there's cars coming.
Yeah. You're like, darn it. And you just don't want to beat on your car so you don't floor it back to first. I get it.
A10? No. Not doing it.
Almost twice as many gears as it needs. Like, come on. 6 speeds is enough. Auto, manual, like, no.
I would rather daily drive a Glide with a 7K stall.
Now you went too far.
Nah.
Daily driving a Power Glide. Oh, my God. That'd
Heck
be
yeah.
terrible. Maybe in the city.
Well, I mean, to be fair, the gearing and the converter I have in my 65E is about a power
It might
glide.
as well be a Glide.
It does 100 miles an hour in second gear. That is my recent most argument for why autos are better than manuals is when we were at Tail of the Dragon, and I could go from 30 to 100 miles an hour in one gear, and it didn't care.
Yeah, 3,800 is fine, but my Sonic ain't going to do
I know.
My Sonic is not doing 30 to 100 mile an hour in one gear. Like,
No, Shane,
be
to be
bad.
fair, I have not driven one, but the sound of constant shifting absolutely makes me want to vomit. I hate it.
I'm sure it is pretty magical, but
They do sound weird.
I would
Sound
hope
really
after
weird.
this many failures, they finally got one figured out.
I remember we went to Camaro Fest a few years ago, and that was like the first time I heard some of the new ZL1s racing with that, I think, A10. And I thought that sounded pretty cool. So I kind of like a lot of shifting as long as it's quick. Like those things are, I'm going to make up something because I don't know, but I'm pretty sure those dudes are probably touching 6th gear by the time they're crossing the beams.
Yeah.
And that sounds pretty cool. So, I mean, I like
so
that
they're
as long
only
as it's
using-
fast.
They only use 6 out of the 10 gears in the quarter mile.
Probably
What-
5 or 6, yeah.
Man, what are the other 4 for then?
It's all highway. That thing probably has
You need 4
2 or
overdrives?
3 overdrives.
I mean,
If you look at the gear breakdown, I'm sure there's at least 2 overdrives.
I know Mayo's car traps in 5th.
And that's 8
Eight
that's an
speed,
8.
yeah.
So, yeah, the ZL1s might trap in
6,
6, maybe 7. I
Yeah.
think Steve's 7th gear shift is 165 miles an hour, if I recall. Not that I would know that.
Not that
Standard
I've-
auto versus CVT.
Not
Ooh,
that I've seen it.
I've never met a good CVT.
10-speed slick for towing. Heck yeah, Bill Kish.
Yeah, CVT is, no.
I have my old Ford with the 4-speed auto and overdrive on a button is so magical because if you're doesn't matter what speed you're towing at, if you want to pass somebody, you just hit the overdrive off and you're right there ready to go in third. Get
I
past
do.
them, hit the overdrive back on, and boom, ready to go.
I am on Team Bo on that one. I do love the overdrive off button.
Mm-hmm. My
That's
Jeep and the Ford
pretty-
has one. It's my favorite.
Underrated right there. That is
Yeah.
a really cool button.
It's like a push to pass.
Yeah.
It's great. It's so nice. Like, I towed the Jeep all the way up to Silver Lake, and just going down the highway, if you're in the slow lane and somebody's there, just overdrive off real quick, do your work, get back in, click her down.
I don't know what the difference is between my brain being okay with clicking a button to
Or
downshift
just pushing the pedal.
or like pushing the button and pulling the shifter back on.
Oh, yeah.
Like my brain just doesn't want to do that.
Definitely
Yeah.
not the same.
But bumping the button, I don't have a problem with that.
It's just crispier. Just crispier. Just
You know, it's funny you mention that because I've done that in the Sonic before when you're on the highway and I know I'm going to pass someone, just pop her back down to fifth, and then that way you can get a little speed
Yeah.
run up on them and get around.
Yep. I saw somebody earlier mentioned, does his 06 Cobalt have no lift shift? No. Sorry.
If you're
The-
fast enough.
I mean, yeah, I guess everything has no lift shift.
Everything has no lift shift if you're brave enough.
they do it.
My 03 Cavalier would do it, and it'd slam like you got hit with the hammer.
Yeah. You could put a watt box on it, and then that would be like kind of a proper no lift shift, and it kind of gives you a launch control. The only Cobalt that ever came with it is the L&F Cobalt. They have no lift shift, and that's pretty nifty.
Ideally,
nifty
it
mod.
seems like, and from referencing some LSJ scans, if you lift to like 50% throttle, it's usually enough with the right clutch.
Well, also, like you can hit the limiter like 4 times before it goes into dirt mode.
Yeah, the limiter does help. If you just hit the limiter and then pull the gear, that'll
That's
work
basically
too.
like no lift shift.
It's basically the same.
That works if your
Don't do that.
clutch if your clutch works.
yeah.
What I like about no lift shift is that it starts to bring the RPM down, so
Yeah.
the synchros start to work. But like if you have a clutch that doesn't really fully disengage properly, you kind of can't no lift shift it. It's
Yeah.
just not going to go into the next gear.
Yep.
And you're going to either bend a fork, break a fork, or you're going to bend shifter cables or pull the cable off or something.
Of the failures and issues I've seen in the F40, kind of funny how we come full circle on that. It's been because of things like that. Usually the second gear synchro and the second gear shift fork, the pads get worn off and the second gear synchro goes bad. I believe the biggest reason for that to be because there's such a huge gear ratio split between first and second. So for those of you that
Big
aren't
R-
familiar with the manual
RPM
transmission,
change.
a synchronizer basically is a clutch that takes your input shaft speed and makes it match where second gear's at so that the teeth can engage without grinding. The more violent you are pulling back on that, the more you're pushing against that clutch material and making it try to hurry up to slow the input shaft down so that you can go into gear. So when you're daily driving, if you just run out first to where you want to, pull back, and then just put a little bit of pressure on the stick and allow it to slow things down, and it'll just drop right in on its own. And if you make a habit of driving that way when you're not in a hurry, you're going to have a much longer life out of your synchronizers. You just allow them to do their job smoothly. Now, when you're trying to shift fast, you got to shift fast. That's fine. But there's no reason to be reducing the lifespan of your trans on your daily driving shifting.
So what you're saying is you should be double clutching.
If you want, yeah, do it.
Brad,
It's kind of like rev matching, but pushing the clutch also.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you just let the RPM come down a little bit as you're shifting, like that's less work that your synchronizer has to do to try to get things to line up.
That's one nice thing about a lighter flywheel. Mm-hmm. The RPM will come down quicker, so the RPMs drop and synchros work a little better.
Mm-hmm. And the lighter clutch does help with that.
But that only works when you're shifting faster. If you shift slow, then the stiffer, the heavier flywheels are probably a better idea. I think
Which we're going back to a heavy flywheel in a drag car. It'd be interesting to see how that changes things.
will be.
from aluminum to chromoly.
Try
Yeah,
to get more hit on the shift.
Gotcha. A little
Because
more
we don't have a
torque
problem
impact.
with the shift speed. We just have problems with keeping the inertia going.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Does make sense, especially when you're spinning a 1.4.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how that'll do.
I'm excited too.
I wish we could rev it higher.
Probably break more axles.
Oh, well, probably. We'll find out.
Or maybe you won't have to like rev so high on the launch, and maybe it won't break axles as much. I don't know.
Either way, it's going to be Tyler's fault, so I'm fine.
And he's not here today, so
Yeah.
Just shift without clutch. Yeah, that would be cool. Was the old rock crusher trannies back in the day?
Well, see, and when you do that with a modern synchrotrans like the F40, that's even more mass that the synchro is having to try to slow down or speed up to get the teeth to engage smoothly.
All right, what a perfect question, honestly. Elijah asks, trying to upgrade my 2001 Impala LS, what upgrades y'all recommend for a budget? Sorry, I thought you were referring to the trans.
F40 swap.
But the trans, it's an LS. I guess misread your question.
Well, we have a video.
Yeah,
have a
we
video
do,
on YouTube.
We do have a top 5 mod video for a 2001 and naturally aspirated car. But anybody getting into a 65E always want to do a converter, input shaft, and then those are your two first things that I would recommend. And then the anything you can do to help third gear live, like the Sonax boost valve. And Tim was just mentioning the other day, if you're going to rev it over 6,200, you want the pump shaft, because the pump shaft doesn't break from horsepower; it breaks from RPM.
Yep.
But the input shaft and the converter are going to be great. And then keeping third alive.
More stall the better when it comes to torque converters. Too.
Yeah,
Way more
7K
fun.
all day.
Like, I would put a 3,000 in everything. I remember I was doing converter testing back in the day in my Bonneville. Bonneville made about it was like a full bolt or a full build, ported heads, headers, everything, XPZ cam, made 360 wheel on gas, but no intercooler, and a stock throttle body actually, and airbox. It was a weird build, but we went from a 1,500 stall converter to a 3,500 stall converter.
Oh, big jump.
I did a few in between, and I just kept doing power pulls to see if the higher stalls actually hurt power up top.
Gotcha.
And they were within like 5. So I see no reason to not run a high stall, except like make sure you're scanning your tranny temps, I suppose, because if you're in traffic jams a lot, or if you don't have your PCM lock in the converter properly, it's definitely going to get hot. But that 1,500 stall converter in the car, you could punch it from a dead stop and it wouldn't even chirp a tire. But then with the 3,500 stall converter, you could punch it at 45 and it would boil the tires to the shift point. Mm-hmm. Converters are magical.
Yeah.
They are torque multipliers.
Bing
and
bong.
that is fun.
Really good at achieving a good 60 foot too. Caleb Dorn, if anybody knows the name, he's raced Rocky Mountain Race Week in his GTP, and I was just talking to him the other day.
Hold on. A 4T65 made it through race week?
It did, and he actually won his class.
Color me impressed.
His class had like 80 cars in it too.
Wow.
Dang.
It was like a 13.0 class, 12.0 class, something slower, but I mean still.
Oh yeah.
But
Impressive.
we were talking about how to make it faster for next year, and I suggested a converter
Surprise me.
because he's still on the stock converter. But just to get a 60-foot times down, because 2/10 in the 60 is, or a 1/10 in the 60 is 2 1/4. So Regal's always had a terrible 60-foot too, because I never put a real tire on it.
Ethan, you're talking about higher stall converters feeling sluggish? No. It's not like the converter doesn't move the car until it gets to its stall RPM. It still takes off just the same. In fact, I would almost say it takes off quicker.
Definitely
because
does.
the RPMs get up higher to where the engine has more torque, so it gets it moving.
It's like me revving that manual to 6K. That converter's doing the same damn thing.
Well, yeah, pretty much.
Kinda, I suppose. But yeah, higher stall. I mean, I really can't come up with anything negative.
No, I've been driving with the 3000 stall that we have for a long time, and I really like it, and I'm tempted to do the 3500 next year with the cam.
Brad, we do not have any F40s. We just sell the installation kits.
Yep.
We did have F40s for a brief time.
Everybody's
when the
been
batch one popped up, but they're gone.
Everybody's been getting F40s off of a pretty reliable vendor on eBay right now, for reference, if you need one.
Mm-hmm.
And they're affordable too. I don't know how many he has left, but check it out.
Yeah, I'm planning on pulling my F35 out of my SS sedan and swapping it to F40. I like that tranny. I think we already kind of talked about it a little bit, but just that 6th gear, just cruising less RPM on the highway. So if you want to go on a long cruise, it's lower RPM, but tighter gear packs.
Yeah, it's not
nice.
like you're gonna gain 10 miles a gallon, but it's gonna bump a small amount.
You'll gain a couple.
A lot of times, if I'm casually driving an F40 car, I'll just do like 1 through 4th, and then I'll just hop into 6th because 4th is already there. Like you don't need to go 5, 6. You just go 4th, 6.
I know Tim is anti-skip gears, but I'm a 1 through 4 and 6 person too.
I shift every gear every time. Every gear every time. I can't help it. I don't know. That's my ricer part, I guess. I
Yeah.
just love shifting.
They didn't skip any in Fast and the Furious. And
No, they didn't.
They hit some of them 5 times.
did you see the video I sent you there?
Yes.
It was like an
It
old.
was so sad.
It was an old like somebody.
Yeah.
Did you see it?
Yeah, I did.
Imagine the size of what that camcorder probably would have
Yeah.
the big shoulder units.
So just to catch you guys up, it was a camcorder footage of like the main scene in Fast and
The
Furious.
filming of the first one.
Yeah, where
Yeah.
they're racing 4 wide down the street. But it's like camcorder footage of somebody standing on the side of the street and they're going like 25 miles
They're just
an hour.
going me.
They
They're
were
driving, like-
running like 16 or 17 second quarter miles.
Oh
But
yeah.
you kind of have to do that, and then you just speed it up. Speed up the footage, just like the people on YouTube like doing. Drives me
Yeah.
crazy.
Most of
Drives
the
me
YouTubers
crazy.
are bad at speeding it up, though. Is the worst
Yeah.
part. Like you can always tell, and it's like, you could have like.
I enjoy picking apart the flaws in those movies just as much as everyone else, but I would be lying if I said that those movies did not have a significant role in me sitting exactly where I am today.
Oh, I love them. At least the first 4 were amazing. I love them. I mean, you gotta kind of have to check your common sense at the door.
Yeah.
But I agree. Like 4 buddies living in the same house, throwing parties on the weekends. There's sweet cars in the driveway. I want to do that right now.
He's not wrong.
Oh, it is so great, man. It does something about car guys.
F40 swap YouTube
you
video.
just-
We can, video people are in here. Put that in your brain box.
Do we have an F40 to swap into something?
I don't know.
Yeah, my
we-
sedan.
Oh yeah, Tim's
Well,
car.
There we go.
Tim's sedan, and we got an Ion coming in too, so
Yeah.
it wouldn't be bad. Even if we didn't go through the entire deal, just showed the key points,
Yeah.
That would be nice.
because it'd be a pretty lengthy install. I mean,
Well,
taking
you
out
could
the-
speed it up.
That's true.
You could speed it up in the more boring areas.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that.
It's not really too bad. It's just tighter fit, right?
It's
pretty
none of,
plug
none
and
of,
play.
Yeah,
like-
it's tighter fit. The
Press-
trans itself is noticeably heavier, so if you struggle getting the F35 out, you're not going to get the F40 in by yourself. Prepare for that.
Yeah, you're gonna definitely need a jack.
How much more? Do you know how much more it weighs roughly?
Probably 15, 20 pounds.
Oh wow.
But when
I would
you're
guess.
but when you're lifting it over your head, it feels like 50.
Yeah, it feels like nothing. If it drops on your thumb, you'll probably know.
I was waiting for that one.
Preston Peace. Yeah. We could. I do all the TCM tunes for all the cars. Pretty sure I tuned yours. So if you have any questions or requests on that, just email me. No problem. I definitely will make tweaks based on customers' preferences.
Yeah, for sure. So like that's a great point. So like on all of our 1.0 PCM tunes, we do get aggressive with them and we do orientate them in a performance aspect. But you got to understand that we're sending this to hundreds of customers. So if you're the type of person who's like, man, I really want my transmission to shift, then and you're done with your tune and you want a little more out of it, that's something we can normally accommodate for, because a lot of people don't want gears to bang.
Yep.
And a good clean shift is what a lot of people are looking for. But if you're like, hey, I want a little more, there's always some more line pressure and shift time left on the
I
table
don't
for
necessarily
most
like 'em
applications.
banging, but I like it to be as quick as possible.
I just love it. I love a gear change that just pulls you forward.
Yeah.
That's my thing.
I've had a lot of interesting requests, I should say. Like I've had people tell me they want the car to shift at 5,000 RPM at full throttle. I've had people say they want it to shift to 7,000 RPM, but, and neither of those RPMs are optimal. But like, if it is like, I am here to appease the customer. If you
Within reason.
If you want your car to shift at $5,000, I mean, I'll make it shift at $5,000.
Now, if you want it to shift at $3,000 at full throttle, we're probably gonna tell you no.
Yeah, that might break something
Might
or
be too
burn
much.
something up. But yeah, within reason.
How to swap LNF in a car? You convert the LNF into an LSJ.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody has their preferences, and so don't be afraid to let us know if you're looking for something a little.
So, what's your guys' thought on the F40 3800? How has that not been brought up yet?
I mentioned it.
Yeah. We're
The parts are very, very hard to find.
yeah, for
That's
sure.
The biggest thing.
I do have a case for the Regal. I have an F40 6-speed case for the Regal. I have the case only. So eventually down the road, it'll probably happen. But
You get a lot of Frankenstein car problems, to my understanding, right?
yeah, the Regal is so just functional. Like, I mean, you lose things like even like reverse lights. You got to figure out reverse lights,
Yep.
Like in a daily application, that's just I want it done right. So if I'm gonna put a 6-speed in the Buick, it's got to be done right. So like I got to make sure the reverse lights work. I think there's some weird things with the Prindle because it's not in park or drive anymore. So like your running lights don't know what to do.
Trick some stuff.
Yeah,
make a
you
new
gotta
harness,
you gotta make sure to take the tranny apart and like sandblast it and powder coat it Galaxy Silver and like all that stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, that too.
yeah. Galaxy Silver's the best silver. So,
But I think there's even something weird with the trunk pop. Doesn't want to open it because
Yeah.
it doesn't think it's in park. Like
remember
there's
you
a
telling me
lot
that.
of little things that you run into when you like, oh yeah, just put a 6-speed in it. But yeah, all the F40 does with a 3800 is bolt together. Same for like an F23. They just bolt together. The rest is on you. Axles, mounts, cables, pedals, shifter. The spec does make a decent clutch to put them together. But
Do the cables line up pretty good, or is that a custom job too?
I mean, the cables will go hook up, but you got nowhere to put them in the car, so you got to build a
Mount, yeah.
build everything. But it'll happen one day. It's just the problem is once the Regal gets F40s, it's probably not going to go as fast anymore. And I have yet to run the quarter mile times that I want to see out of that.
See, he fixed all the problems already. Just hit him up. Michael asked.
I know it's all easy, and I know it's doable, but so is just putting in the 65E with all the right parts.
Yeah. Just get
But
a
yeah,
stockpile.
I'll let me jot your name down, man, and I'll hit you up when the times come. I honestly, I want the Buick to run a 1099, and then I'll 6-speed swap it.
Speaking of 6-speed,
Yeah.
Michael asked about the 6-speed auto from a Cruise into a Cobalt.
that sounds like an abortion.
Well, it's terrible, but I just wanted to take that comment and point out that there's already a much stronger version of the Cruise 6-speed that already bolts up to an Ecotec, and it's in the GMC Terrain and Equinox.
Huh.
If you want to go down that road.
Yeah,
And they are all-wheel drive. And I have thought about this, but I don't know what kind of power they could take.
My gripe with the autos and all these, let's say, econo boxes, and I have a bunch, so that's not meant to be an insult, but it seems like every single auto GM underdog car gobbles up power.
Yeah.
Gobbles it up. So I would definitely not be doing any auto swaps in any of our platforms, honestly. Like, I wouldn't do any of them. But,
What's
like
the-
Bo said, like, Bo wants to run a 10.9 in his Regal, and his best chance of running a 10.9 is with his 4T65. If he wants to road course, / tail the drag in the car, put an F40 in it. Yeah. Even though your auto worked amazing. I mean, I'm not knocking the auto, but you will put more power down with the F40. I mean, Matt ran into this with his drag car. He was doing all kinds of wild things to get that 4T65 to actually put his power down. He went from I'm going to make up numbers, but he went from 20 pounds to 25 pounds. And the engine, in the scans, the engine made more power. It sucked more air.
It pushed through the converter
just
harder.
blew through the converter more. So he ran within 1/10 of a second. but making like, I don't know, 100 more horsepower.
Well, I remember him saying that on the dyno, he hit it with like 100 or 150 shot, and it picked up like 20 horse, something like that, because all it did was just push through harder.
Yep. And he hasn't yet figured out how to put like a fancy converter, or like a fancy lockup converter in the car. I don't know if he's gonna like go down that rabbit hole with this new surprise coming up that I won't mention.
He's
But,
pretty set on that next plan.
The next plan's gonna gobble up all his time and do some cool stuff. But I did see a couple questions in there I want to nail. I think Elijah asked if a 1.0 PCM is going to affect the longevity of the engine. No, it is not. If anything, it's better. Do your maintenance. Get your coolant elbows done and your lower intake gaskets done, and maybe do a couple early oil changes if you haven't owned it for a while to kind of clean it out. And then put a 1.0 file on it. It's way more fun. All the shifting tweaks to make it more fun. Optimal fueling and timing. It's a great thing. And I missed the other ones, but there was a lot of questions in there.
You want to scroll up quick, Eric?
You can grab your phone and scroll up on it if you wanted to.
Right above Joel.
Is that working?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Any negative effects for
I do, Preston, the question about the downshifting in auto. I also heard that rumor years ago, and I don't understand how these rumors happen.
The worst thing about downshift.
You can downshift your car anytime you want, and there's nothing wrong with it. Like your TCM probably won't even let you shift to the wrong gear.
Already at redline.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's not going to let you do it.
Yeah, but like there are people that literally started a rumor about it's bad on your tranny to shift it yourself, and it's like the tranny is doing the same exact thing if you are pulling the shifter or the TCM is telling it to shift. I mean, regardless, it's sending a signal saying upshift or downshift. So yeah, like downshift, I would do it. Like our 1.4s, like, you just kind of have to predict the future a little bit. Like downshift it a gear or two and get ready for the pass and then floor it so you don't have to let it downshift.
It still doesn't shift until it's ready to.
Yeah.
And it's you can hit the button, but there's a lag before the shift actually happens.
Yeah, and it's probably better on the tranny because you're not floored under shifting as much.
Yeah.
You already downshifted, you're ready to go, and you just punch it and it just goes.
Yeah, sometimes I'll downshift the Regal coming into a corner so that when I exit the corner, it doesn't have to downshift. It'll already be in the gear that I need.
Yeah.
And like I'll downshift real aggressively, so much so that I don't even need much brake entering the corner. And the only negative effect from downshifting an automatic aggressively is you're just creating heat because of the converter. Yeah, other than the heat, there's really no downside.
Yeah. If you're on a road course, I'd be careful with downshifting in a corner or something.
Yeah,
because that is adding
at least
a whole,
too soon.
That's adding a whole bunch of front brake bias, and you could be doing some loop-de-loos.
True.
So be
I'm
careful
not
with
downshifting
that.
at 100 on a road course. I'm just
Well,
saying, spiritedly
anytime.
driving on the street.
Anytime.
Try anything once.
That is a tough situation though, because you do want to be in the correct gear, but if you're braking and then you're downshifting, you are
You can
adding
slow
like
that
front
down,
bias braking, and
You can.
it could be
I see what you're
a
saying.
problem.
The front tires are slowing down, but the rear's not, so the rear's going to want to come around, especially
Yeah.
if you're steering. Yeah.
And I haven't
No
I haven't
idea.
raced road coursed in automatic ever, so I don't know what to do. But it's just something you just got to try different stuff and see what works.
Yeah, you used to downshift your S2000 pretty hard, obviously, because you.
Yeah. I did not rev match downshift, and I was at Road America at Gred Life, and I grenaded a rear axle that way. So rev match downshifting is highly recommended in a manual tranny car. And that, I guess, is one more point towards auto, is that you're probably not going to break an axle from downshifting. That converter is just enough slip point, rubber band to not break hard parts as easy, like axles and wheel bearings or whatever hard parts.
One thing I guess we could address when I'm on the topic of axles is a lot of our customers are really concerned about breaking an axle. They're always asking about stage 2 axles. Can I upgrade my axles?
Stop launching on street tires.
That,
Ding,
but
ding,
That's
ding,
part of
ding.
it. That's part of it.
But across the board, generally speaking, none of our platforms have a problem breaking an axle. Like, there's no car out here that we put a Z04 on, a turbo kit on, an entry-level kit on, that we go out and tune it, and it just starts breaking axles. Like, that's not a thing. GM really...
If it is a maintenance problem.
Maintenance, your car's lowered a lot and you don't have the proper mount, so it's binding the CV joint.
If your ball joints are loose, if your tie rods are loose, if your control arm bushings are loose, like anything that gives some play in the front end can break an axle. Anything that can promote wheel hop.
Yeah, binding and shock load is what kills them.
Yes.
I've put over 600 horse through junkyard F23 axles. When you apply the power smoothly, they're incredibly strong.
And every one of his cars that he's done that in, like, has had tight control arm bushings and tight ball joints and tight tie rods. If you have, like, here's another thing. It's a lot of just driving experience. Like, if you go to launch the car and if you even feel an inkling of wheel hop, push the clutch in or let off the gas.
Do not try to power through.
Do not power through wheel hop. You will break an axle. You have like it's got to be like a 90% chance of breaking an axle if you start to feel wheel hop.
One question that scrolled away, ideal auto for an Ecotec. In the term of what's realistically possible, there is no such thing as an ideal auto for a high horsepower LSJ or LNF. And I have absolutely no idea if the terrain trans would fit. I think it would, but it's a pipe dream. I doubt I'll ever even experiment with that, but the parts are there if someone wants to play with it.
What's the HHRSS auto to manual power difference? For
Oh,
those
wow.
who don't know.
Yeah.
So that's always, isn't it like 100?
It sounds made up.
I don't know what the percentage is here, but we had a customer come in with an HHR. I was going to say his name, but I won't. I don't know if I shouldn't say his name without permission. Yeah. A full bolt-on HHR. Big turbo, all mods. This thing made like 320 wheel horsepower.
It was somewhere around there.
Full
It was an
bolt-on.
S257.
Big turbo, everything. If you put that same combo in a manual car, you're making 450 plus.
Easy.
So it is a percentage loss.
I think the
It's not
percent
X number.
grows as you're trying to push through it.
Agreed.
Like at stock-ish power levels, it's probably not that big of a gap. But when you're trying to make bigger power, it's like the 4T just says no.
To your point, Al, my stock HHR with a downpipe has a dyno and an auto, let me clarify, has a dyno sheet in the glove box that says 278 wheel horsepower.
That's pretty good.
And that is good numbers for
very
a
good.
KO4 car through an auto. And, anybody who does a full bolt-on manual knows it's like 290 to 305, that 300 wheel horsepower mark. So to only be 25 wheel behind is super good. But as Tim's story explains, the margin gets bigger the higher horsepower that you try to put into that trans.
I generally tell the auto guys to do like full bolt-ons.
And be happy with it.
Yeah, full bolt-ons and be happy with it. Like, I don't know if we even sell a turbo that I would put on an auto car. Like, I don't even think the Z54, like, I don't even know if I'd put that on it. Like, I think a KO4 car, like full bolt-on KO4 on E85 would be exactly what I would do to an LNF auto and be happy with it. And that's like, that'll make over 400 foot-pounds of torque to the tires. You have torque multiplication of the converter. A manual trainee's LNF will make 400 foot-pounds. So an auto, in theory, should make even more. And somebody brought up an ideal auto for a Ecotec, let's say a LSJ or LNF. The ATS with the A6 tranny, automatic 6-speed tranny, that'd be neat.
If you're wanting
it's a
to
dream.
do a conversion,
Yeah,
when I responded to that, I was thinking of a bolt-in.
Agreed. Like, there is no transaxle you can put, next to it. But if you were to do something really cool, I think an ATS tranny would, a light-duty one, not a V8 one, like the lightweight ATS automatic 6-speed would be pretty neat behind a
But then
LSJ.
you got to control it.
Yeah. And, and I would imagine the TCM from the ATS might be able to control that. It would be a wiring.
Someone could figure it out.
Yeah.
I did see Brad mention about the Honey Badger. Like, we do plan on doing more stuff on that. was not in the mood to mess with it for a while, so it's just been hard parked. I got some things I got to take care of, get it back on the dyno. I didn't want to bother making any media splashes with it until I actually have her all dialed in.
I mean, there's snow on the ground, and he's got a family. I mean, he's kind of got to make up on some lost time there.
Plus,
so.
I got to get the Sonic ready to go too. That takes priority.
No, I think it's fair to say that we'll probably do a build breakdown on the Badger and the Regal next season, kind of like we did with the Sonic in the warehouse. That was a super cool video. So
Yeah, if you guys didn't check out on YouTube, that dude in blue just put out the Moose.
posted up the Regal. Go check out the Moose a galloping with the dude in blue behind the wheel, because we got to get more views than that Snowball. Not that I care about views, but I do.
The video is like 80% blow-off valve noises, so you'll like it.
Yeah, Snowball's up there. Our Slingshot's on there, and he's doing a couple more. So,
heck yeah. Actually, I really appreciate the video that David did on the car, and I think he had a lot of good things to say. My favorite part that I literally jumped out of my seat about was when he was like at a loss for words to describe it, and he says, "It's just efficient." And I'm like,
and it really is.
I'm like, oh my gosh, like,
Thank you.
I'm like, Al would know, like, that's everything, you know, like that's everything when you're trying to build a mod car, is just ensure that everything is efficient as possible. The suspension, the power, everything works efficiently. And so the fact for him to actually recognize that in the words that come out of his mouth really did it for me. But yeah,
LSDs, yes, they're worth every penny.
Yeah.
Noah. I had my Sonic had an open diff, and it was terrible. Took it to Tail of Dragon, and I was spinning one tire out of every turn. And then I put that M Factory diff in it, and it was amazing.
Yep. I remember before the drag car was a drag car, when we put the first LSD in that and took it down to Dixie, it was the way it pulled out of a corner. I was like, oh, this car's actually fun now.
When I had the Ion back in the day, and I put an F35 in there with the LSD, I drove home and I was just laughing out loud. I'm like, this is so much fun. Yep. I'm like, there's no way it just pulled out of the corner like that. It blows your mind, really.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I'm not even gonna. Never mind. Too early. I just want to tease you guys with all the good stuff. 2023 is gonna be fun, boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll get all of our stuff caught up this winter and come out pretty strong this year. I mean, most of our vehicles, I mean, the Badger, I guess, is the vehicle that could use the most work just because it's so freaking hardcore. But, I mean, it's together and running. Like, all he needs to do is iron out some details. And, like, kind of all of our cars are there. So this coming year should be a good year for ZZP.
We are so leaps and bounds ahead of where we were a year ago, man. Our fleet was hurting in the spring. When we came out, it was hard to get everybody out to streetcar takeover. Just because...
Yeah, my car wasn't even running at all.
I mean, any car guide knows it's very easy to get behind, and we have 50 vehicles here that we're constantly R&Ding on and constantly breaking, so it's hard to keep them all up and running, but we're sitting pretty good right now for the most part. Most of them are pretty turnkey with a few this and that, but we'll be coming out strong next year.
JPL, in reference to like the Cobalt specifically, when you get a good slick on there, the sidewall acts like such a gigantic shock absorber that you have to mess something up pretty bad to break an axle. Like my friend Tyler Stone, he's gone deep into the tens on stock axles. And I have broken many of those at stock power by trying to launch hard on street tires. And that's how much of a difference it makes.
Yep. If you want to drag race or launch an F35, get a good 15-inch wheel and a slick.
Yep.
For sure.
This is really the only way it'll ever work. Like, don't even try it. I mean, when I was a rookie here and I had my Ion and I was like, oh, let's go to the track. And everybody's like, oh, you're going to break an axle. I'm like, it'll be all right. No, it's not all right. It's
Preston,
not all
you
right.
just missed the sale. You got to wait 11 months and 3 weeks.
Slicks are, pretty much for everything. I think rear-wheel drive cars maybe on average are a little stronger, a little beefier for horsing around and not breaking stuff. But on our front-wheel drive cars, the tires and wheels are pretty key. If you're into drag racing, you definitely want the smallest wheel you can fit and a nice soft sidewall sticky tire. It'll get you out of the hole quicker. and then you got to worry about, weight transfer. But yeah, between weight transfer and sticky soft tires with good sidewalls, you can launch a front wheel driver.
Yeah, Jason, I'd go to 13s if I ever decide to actually quarter the car a lot more.
That's so baby.
It's not out of the
Jeez.
question.
Some Honda wheels.
Baby.
Hey, more sidewall the better.
Jason, we'd love a 2023 dyno day. We were thinking about maybe just getting something for all the platforms. Just
Yep.
even
Like a meetup day.
just a meetup maybe. Problem is we need a place to do it. Because
You all can come to Streetcar Takeover.
Honestly,
we'll be there with every car we have running.
that's a great point, Al. If you're looking to hang out and do some car stuff with us,
We should plan and advertise that.
Yeah, Streetcar
Because
Takeover.
then we don't have to host an event.
Yeah. Streetcar Takeover is the event that you can guarantee us to be at. Other than that, we're pretty hit or miss around whatever we can get to, but we definitely shoot hard for Streetcar Takeover. It's the first thing we hit every year. This year it's June 9th and 10th, I believe.
Which it's pretty much June already, so I should probably get
Yep.
It's
tinkering
funny
on my car soon.
They posted the dates, and I'm like, oh,
Oh no! Oh no!
oh, it's real. But
You're like, June, that's 6 months away. Like, wait a second, it's December?
yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Don't
count,
blink.
count the paychecks between now and then, and count the car parts you need too.
Richard mentioned which part gets messed up first in a tranny if you don't get the converter pushed in all the way. Number one is usually the tabs on the tranny from trying to pull it in when it's not ready to go in.
You're gonna ruin the
And
pump.
then the next is the pump 100%.
So for 65Es, best thing you want to do is get everything bolted together. Make sure the bell housing goes together well with your dowels, and then go ahead and make sure you can spin the converter in the bell housing with your fingers. And then from there, you need to be able to pull it towards the flex plate with the bolts. If there's not a quarter inch to 3/8 of a gap there, you have something wrong. Usually the converter is not all the way on the input. But you need to freely spin the converter before putting in the bolts, and then put all 3 bolts in before you tighten a single one.
Yeah, we just had a Sonic customer do that and broke the tab off his brand new rebuilt engine. Oops. So he had to pull the brand new rebuilt engine out and replace the block. I was like, oh man, that sucks. Like, you got to make sure, like Bo said, that converter should have a gap between it and the flex plate, and you have to push it towards the flex plate with the tranny fully bolted up to the engine already.
Yikes.
It's not a thing to take. You need to take it very seriously that your converter is in properly. Like, don't just be with the boys on a Friday night. Nah, it's in there. Put the bolts in.
The
No.
bolts will get it flush.
Yeah.
Here's something too. This works for the manual tranny guys as well. Like, whatever splines you're trying to get to connect, test it first. Let's start with the manual tranny. For the manual tranny, take the clutch disc and
That's a
slide
big
it.
one.
Slide it on your input shaft of your tranny. It should go all the way in and then just pull right back out. It should move easily because that's got to move a 16th of an inch or whatever. When the
It's
clutch
got
is
to be
being
able to
pushed in.
float, or else it's going to drag when you shift.
Yeah. And then same goes for the auto. Take the converter and just slide it on slide it on. Make sure everything slides on there good and it goes in fully all the way, and then take it off and then redo it again.
The SCT we were specifically talking about, a couple years ago they added Martin, Michigan into the loop. It's the same track that you went to us with a couple years ago.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, they post them all on
Yeah,
their
pre-rolls.
website.
Yeah.
I don't
Our
know if
ZZ
they have dates yet, but
They do. Consider our ZZP track day,
To be Streetcar Takeover. We're just piggybacking on their event.
Yeah, it's
which
less
is a
than
great
an
event.
hour from us.
And yeah.
half
It
hour
was
from
like
us.
40 minutes. on a bad
Saturdays
day.
Saturdays roll racing. Sunday is bunch of different dig racing. So.
Assuming my car's in one piece, I'll likely hit if they bring back the Xenia, Ohio one later in the season, I'll probably hit that also. I really want to
Or
kick
maybe
some
Indy.
butt in the roll race events. Yeah, or Indy.
12 to 17 Regal GS, great car. Nice luxury car that has a lot of potential. I would personally prefer the LHU one over the LTG just because the LHU makes power easier and it's a little more reliable.
Yep.
But the later model ones can be done too. We've done a whole bunch of them. Great mod cars.
All right, boys. It's 5 o'clock.
Yep. Any closing notes, or we're gonna drive home through a snowstorm, I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm excited. I like driving in snow.
Yeah, fun times.
All right, thanks guys.
Right on.
We'll
Cool.
see you next
Catch
week.
you next week.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.